The story of China's success is a tale of water. From the Han's culture flourishing along the banks of the Huanghe River to modern oceanic cargo that moves manufactured products to global markets, waterways have been essential in creating a network that has allowed the flourishing economy of China's coastal and inner regions for centuries. This network has been at the core of China's political, economic, and even military clout for decades. However, this same water has also become the source of China's own weakness. The increased usage and pollution of freshwater reserves has led to shortages that threaten the population's security. But perhaps geography holds the key to an unexpected solution. By leveraging the vast network of inland waterways that have been integral to China's success, the country may be able to find a way to both protect its population and maintain its global influence. To understand the causes of these problems, we must look to the country's history and geography. The Han culture flourished along the banks of the Huanghe River, which provided some of the most fertile lands in the world. From there, it expanded south to the Yangtze and Pearl river basins. In the 5th century AD, the Sui dynasty constructed the Jinghang Grand Canal, the world's longest and one of the oldest artificial waterways. This connection allowed the unification of two distinct regions and cultures, the center of power in the north and the commercial and agricultural south. The construction of this critical infrastructure also addressed northern China's historical freshwater problem. Armies and emperors frequently moved north to south, while freshwater and rice moved south to north, ensuring the sustainment of a larger population around the capital, Beijing, and providing a safeguard against recurrent floods and droughts. For centuries, this system has ensured sustainable demographic and economic growth. However, modern China now faces a much more critical freshwater shortage. But why is that? One big reason is the human factor. Global water consumption has increased 8-fold to the last 100 years, largely due to population growth, dietary needs, and economic development. Yet, China's per capita availability of water is only 1/4 the world average. In the past 60 years, China's population has more than doubled, with Beijing alone growing from 14 million to over 21 million in less than 20 years. This growth has not been evenly distributed geographically. If we look at China's population distribution, we can see that the majority of people live in the east, along the coastline and in some inland pockets, such as those around the Sichuan Basin. The so-called Heihe-Tongcheng line perfectly illustrates this. South of the line lives 94% of China's population, yet only being 43% of the total territory. In total, around 80% of Chinese people live in only 10% of China. What makes China's water problem even worse is that higher population densities are concentrated in the north of the country, which is also the driest. Despite supporting 50% of China's population, the north only has 20% of total freshwater reserves. This is further exacerbated by international trade, as the north exports around 5% of its water through commodities that require water for their production. The consequences of this are dire. China's National Bureau of Statistics estimates that in 2021, only 40% of Chinese had access to tap water. And another study published in Nature estimates that somewhere between 25% and 60% live under severe water scarcity. Water scarcity in the north of China is mainly caused by human factors, such as overpopulation, but geography and climate also have a significant influence. The diverse geography and climates of the country, ranging from deserts to rainforests, and from 7,000+ meter mountains to remote tropical islands, created a wide range of temperatures and rainfall levels. The Tarim Basin in the northwest has a desert-like climate and almost no rainfall, while further south, the climate is tropical, and temperate winters are often accompanied by an average precipitation of up to 80 inches. On average, northeastern China received around half of the rainfall of the south. In addition to receiving less rain, the north also has a second issue: high variability of precipitation. This means some years have abundant rainfall, while others are much drier. In the south, this variability is around 40%, whereas in the vast regions of the north, it reaches 70%, and east of Beijing, it even spikes up to 80%. Furthermore, 70 through 80% of rain falls between May and September, with spring being the driest but also the most demanding season for agriculture. This has historically been linked to China's recurrent floods and drought problems. If it weren't for the Chinese waterways, this could have been a catastrophic situation. In case of the destruction of crops due to floods or droughts, internal waterways have provided for centuries a way of transporting large quantities of food and water. Still, to this day, waterways are the main access into China and its financial markets. However, economic downturns, inflations, and geopolitical turmoils have created volatility in traditional markets, prompting many investors to look for more innovative assets, while lower correlation to the stock market, such as real estate, gold, and even fine art. Until recently, investing in the art market required millions of dollars, but thanks to Masterworks, everyone can now invest in museum-grade contemporary art for a fraction of the cost. The process is simple. Masterworks scrutinizes paintings with the SEC, makes them available as public offerings, and sells them at the best retail price on the art market. From Banksy to Monet, you can now add art to your portfolio just like the ultra-wealthy, and nearly 600,000 people have already signed up. There is usually a waiting list to access Masterworks services, but by going to masterworks.art/kamome, you'll get full priority access. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to invest in art like the wealthy. And now back to the video. For the past 4 decades, Chinese administrations have worked to mitigate the impact of rainfall variability and changing climate by investing in freshwater reserve infrastructures. 2 of the most renowned projects are the Three Gorges Dam and the South-North Water Transfer Project. These projects help to collect and store more water, reducing the effects of rainfall seasonality and providing a way to share some water with China's north. The Three Gorges Dam, which was the largest dam in the world when it was completed in 2006, plays a major role in reducing the effects of rainfall variability. It creates a large water reserve upstream of the Yangtze, which can be used during droughts or withheld to prevent floods downstream, while also lengthening the navigability of the river and generating hydroelectric energy. The South-North Water Transfer Project, first conceived by Mao, began construction in 2002 and is expected to be completed by 2050. This aqueduct network will provide an annual 40,000 billion cubic meters of water, supplying hundreds of millions in the north with fresh water from the south. In addition to these massive projects, smaller-scale initiatives are being implemented, particularly in the sanitation of polluted water. This has been a focus of Xi Jinping's administration, which has invested increasingly in the sanitation of polluted water resources, from $169 million in 2012 to $3.64 billion in 2021. China's statistics are often referred to as opaque and should be taken with a grain of salt. But if you want to learn more about the history of censorship in China, you should check out this excellent video by Knowledge Riders. The second problem: pollution. Since the 1980s, China's rivers have become increasingly contaminated at an alarming rate. Chemical oxygen demand, a widely used pollution indicator that measures the oxygen needed to decompose organic matter in the water, almost doubled from 2011 to 2021. From 12 to 24 million tons, indicating that more waste was being discharged into the environment. Additionally, agricultural and domestic nitrogen pollution discharges are 2.7 times higher than the estimated safe threshold. Not only nitrogen, but also phosphate, which is used in China's vast rice crops, and which is also one of the most phosphate-demanding agriculture. Water pollution is also caused by indirect pollutants released into the air. China's industrial and energy generation sectors heavily rely on burning coal to generate energy and heat, which not only contributes to 90% of China's total greenhouse gas emissions, but also to the emission of particulate matter that deposits on crop fields and water reserves. In 2020, this was estimated at 6 million tons, creating pollution levels unseen in other parts of the world. The consequences of this are devastating, impacting the quality of life of the Chinese people and the environment. A recent study found out that around 21% of diseases in China are related to pollution, 8% more than in the US. This has caused the premature loss of human lives and immense economic problems, with an estimated 1.1 million premature deaths and an annual loss of $38 billion to the country's economy. China has, over the years, tried to address this issue with various and debatable results. However, one of the most promising solutions has been the investing in more efficient transportation methods, like trains for passengers and inland waterways for freight. China is by far the leading emitter of global carbon dioxide, with the majority of emissions coming from its coal-dependent energy production and industrial sectors, accounting for a staggering 90% of the total. In comparison, transportation accounts for only 8% of China's emissions, a stark contrast to the more advanced countries such as the United States and Europe, where transportation emissions are around 29% and 26%, respectively. The higher transportation emissions in more advanced countries are largely attributed to road transport, with private cars alone accounting for more than 77% of all EU transportation-related greenhouse gas emissions in 2020. So why does China, with its large economy, only emit a fraction of US and EU transportation emissions? Well, a major factor is the clever use of its geography, and in particular, its extensive network of navigable waterways. China boasts the largest navigable waterway network on Earth, with twice the length of Brazil, the second largest. This network, known as the 21218 network, comprises of two horizontal routes, the Yangtze and the Pearl Rivers, one vertical route, the Grand Canal, two networks, the Yangtze and Pearl River basins, and 18 high-grade waterways. These waterways are so essential to the Chinese economy that in 2014, more than 7% of total freight was moved by internal waterways alone. By comparison, the EU and US usage of inland waterways compared to other forms of transport, such as rail or road, is 5.8% and 4%, respectively. Just as the Mississippi connects the agricultural and logistics hub upstream, such as St. Louis, Cincinnati, and the tri-state area, with major oceanic deep water ports on the Gulf of Mexico, like South Louisiana, New Orleans, and Baton Rouge, China's waterway system plays an even more significant role in connecting the manufacturing inland hubs with the coast. The port of Suzhou, China's New Orleans, has a freight throughput capacity higher than the combined total of the US's top two ports, Houston, Texas, and South Louisiana. Chongqing, which is located more than 1,000 miles upstream of the Yangtze, has almost the same capacity as South Louisiana. But if we were to compare Chongqing's location deep into China's inland, it would play a similar role to that of St. Louis, but with a cargo volume 10 times greater. The vast network of internal waterways acts as the veins and arteries that connect and nourish China's industrial hearts, deep inside its inland. This provides a cost-efficient and less polluting way of transportation, despite the mountains and rough terrain. Modern inland waterway transportation is one of the most cost-effective and environmentally friendly ways to move freight. A modern 3,000 metric ton vessel can transport the equivalent of around 100 40-ton truck journeys in one go, while producing a fraction of the CO2 emissions and fuel. Given China's expansive geography, water transportation offers a unique combination of the adaptability of roads and the efficiency of rail. Locks and lifts, such as those on the Three Gorges Dam, enable vessels to traverse elevation changes while maintaining cost efficiencies. On the Yangtze, which accounts for the 51% of total waterways, larger ocean-going cargoes can reach as far as Nanjing, while vessels of 1,000 tons or more can navigate from Shanghai at sea level all the way to Luzhou, 262 meters above sea level, at the foot of the Tibetan Plateau. The cost-efficient transportation and development of internal waterways have enabled the growth of manufacturing and industrial hubs upstream, like Chongqing. Now, the economy built around the Yangtze, Pearl, and Yellow River basins alone count for over 60% of China's total GDP. The development of inland waterways related to the Go West policy can serve as a model for other countries with similar geographical conditions. For example, Vietnam is the fourth largest user of internal waterways per annual tonnage moved, behind the US. However, there are other countries with untapped potential. Bangladesh, Brazil, India, and Russia, despite having a large network of navigable rivers and inland industrial manufacturing hubs, only use a fraction of their potential as logistical infrastructure. These countries could benefit greatly from reduced pollution and road traffic if they were to make use of their inland waterways, while improving the upstream economy. Despite the measures adopted, China still faces a major water crisis. To ensure the quality of its freshwater reserves, significant investments in water sanitation are needed. Investments that could cost hundreds of billions of dollars. However, it is essential for China to protect its future by ensuring the well-being of its people and the environment. By doing so, China can set an example for other countries and lead them to more sustainable practices. Ensuring enough freshwater sources and environmental sustainability is a major challenge in overcoming issues such as climate change, unpredictable precipitation, and rising sea levels, and will become an increasingly strategic weakness if left unchecked. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you particularly like this video, please check out our Patreon and our secret Discord chat. In any case, thank you so much for watching and hope to see you at the next one. Ciao.